So I saw this one guy on Science and Non-Duality. It's like this spiritual science channel. I think I sent it to you. And he was talking about how we are, like, he's talking about an emergent world. So we're just constantly creating our reality. And it goes back to the whole God thing where we're gods and we're just playing this ego video game. Like the ego is like this console, and we kind of go through and play this video game. And it's just constantly making these kind of, I don't know if I want to call it trauma for us, but like we want to like just, it's constantly trying to make us correct a trauma, right?
Yes. Exactly. That's how I would call it, honestly. A trauma or like a limiting belief. It's like when you're a child, you're a sponge, and so like it's like a program. Like it gets stored in there, and then you play that program your entire life, and you're not aware because it's been happening your entire life. Yeah. And then, you know, until you reach a point in your life where it is uncomfortable and you decide to face it and decide to face that fear. Like, how uncomfortable is it for you to be with someone for 5 years and then be like, this shit ain't working? And to face that and to like change it, right? Like same with like people in marriages. And I would say like majority of our parents, they think it's the right thing to do is to stay. Yeah. Because you know, they've been told maybe divorce isn't good or whatever, but it's like, once you face that and really see what it is, then you can shift your life and create something that's more aligned with you, that's going to bring you energy, that's going to literally bring the light out in you.
To bring that abundance, to live life that we are.
You can live that way. Yeah, and there's no hard feelings to like anyone. When shit doesn't work out, it's your ego wants to blame the other person, and that's what a lot of people do. They blame the other person, they blame a situation, they don't take responsibility for their energy, which is a huge lesson that I've learned recently. And when you can do that, like, you start to realize how fucking amazing you are, how powerful you are.
Yeah, and it is a hard thing to explain to people, but it is because people do see it as very flaky. But if you think about movies, they have a point in every movie called The Dark Night of the Soul. And if you think about what the purpose of a story is or a movie is, it is like a drug or a book even. It is like a drug and like a spiritual drug. And the purpose, like a spiritual drug, is to essentially face your demon, to face your shadow and to overcome it. And it's very important work, but we don't have like respectable ways to do it here. So it is very repressed and stuff like that, I find.
And why do you think ayahuasca is such a hot thing right now? Because this medicine takes you to face your fears.
Yeah.
It brings you face to face with what you don't want to see. And ultimately, what is the truth? What is the one truth? This is what I tell people. The one truth is love. That is your anchor. Like, that's always trying to come through. And when it's like this, you know, demon in the closet, it's literally your shadow, your own thoughts, your own fear. That shit doesn't exist. You know, like, it's what's beneath that. Same in our dreams, right? Like, I used to have a reoccurring dream that I was in a house and there was a ghost and I couldn't like figure out what was happening.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
It's so terrifying, and you realize like it's symbolic for something you don't want to look at.
Yeah. Well, some people live their lives like that. Like, their life is like a waking nightmare, kind of.
Just because like, I would say the majority of people live their life like that, but I don't want to live my life like that, and that's why I'm on this path, because I know that there's something truer, more beautiful behind the suffering and the trauma. Yeah. And if you take the time to sit with it, then you will find the beauty behind it.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing, it's like life and everything is just a giant loving kindness test. And then everything is like can you still have loving kindness for this? It's like the test that we're doing in every moment. And every time we choose the negative thing, we're just adding a little bit of stress to our life.
It's like further and further away from love, and that's Christ consciousness. Like, how can you love the most unlovable? How can you love the shitty parts of you, the mistakes that you've made? And when you do that, it's this like energetic healing that doesn't only heal the body, because a lot of the time when we hang on to trauma and suffering and we don't love ourselves, it disease, whether it's a mental disease or a physical disease. But when we can start changing the program in our mind and start saying, fuck you to the guilt, fuck you for, you know, all these things, these terrible things that you think about yourself, like, start changing the program and start using affirmations. I use affirmations all the time and they work.
Okay. You're doing affirmation. Okay, cool. Yeah. No, that's a big one. The loving kindness, it is a difficult thing to convince people of, because people do think it's just so flaky and dumb, and they think that the answer to things is fighting, is tough love.